Hey guys, today I'm gonna make my first reaction video in my second channel. But first, let me change my account first. Bye. Guys, I'm done. Just took a tiny pee break and changed my account. And now let's find storyboard. No, I don't like that. Yeah, this is the one where people have their story. I'll sub them. And yeah. Wow, what's this? I stalked by a come on. Wait. So my dumb father just do some random stuff, so I was stalked by a mysterious woman. Let's watch it. Let's go.
Hi, my name's Carla. I want to tell you a story that is really hard for me to talk about.
What the heck?
How one encounter and one conversation can turn your life into chaos.
Holy fuck.
What can I tell you about myself? I'm just a teenager who lives in a big city. I have no siblings and only communicate with my parents and friends. A lot of friends, though. In a city with millions of people, you can be a loner only if you really wanted to. I don't like staying home, and after school I always hang out with friends. No matter where. In Central Park, at coffee shops, in malls. I like hanging out and was never scared of crowded places, even when I was a kid. At that time, I once was lost in a shopping mall. Well, I wasn't really lost. I was just following a cotton candy cart.
What?
My mom
Yummy.
That's
delicious, dude.
And when she finally found me, she cried and even yelled at me. I think that was the only time that my parents had ever been that angry with me. Usually they're very kind and tender, but that day my mom was really scared. She thought I had been kidnapped. So I'm an ordinary teenage girl, and now you're probably thinking, what kind of story is she going to tell me? It's the story of stalking and kidnapping. At least the kidnapping of my serenity.
Okay, guys.
Well, I spend a lot of time in crowded
family
places,
friendly,
and I
okay?
can't really know when it
Oh my
all began.
god.
We don't really remember specific faces in crowds. All of them sort of merge into a single background. I seldom look at people passing by or wonder who is sitting at the next table in a coffee shop. And I guess people don't care about me the same way. How can I explain what I sensed that day? I was sitting at a coffee shop with my friends, eating a gigantic portion of ice cream, and I was being watched. I turned back and caught the eye of a middle-aged woman. She had a nice but not remarkable face. Modest and clean clothes, no makeup or jewelry. The only noticeable thing was her long, old-fashioned braid. One of my girlfriends giggled about her ridiculous hairdo. At this very moment, I felt uncomfortable, but then I returned to my ice cream and forgot all about it. But I was soon reminded.
Ice cream.
This time I was alone sitting in my favorite park, completely absorbed, reading about my favorite heroes' adventures, and suddenly glanced up from my book. A nearby bench was occupied by the same woman.
Holy frizzle cakes.
But I recognized her braid curled around her head. The woman was looking straight at me. But when she noticed that I saw her, she looked somewhat embarrassed and soon left abruptly. I was a little surprised, but after all, it was Central Park. If there was any place in the world where you might meet a stranger for the second time, it's probably right there. But the situation kept repeating itself. I began to notice that damn braid here and there in the masses of people that surrounded me. Was it just my imagination?
Nope.
I felt confused.
Yep, it's not the
I didn't
imagination.
understand how this could be happening. But I saw this woman at the park, at the coffee shop, at the mall, and even walking by my school gate.
Stalker.
What should I have thought?
Stalker.
I felt really scared when I saw her coming down the stairs of my own building. She quickly ducked down when she saw me, but it was her. I didn't dare talk to her, and instead hid behind a door. I swear, if it were a man, I would have already called the police by now. But I didn't want to look stupid if all of this was some sort of confusion. I started to look for some reason behind these bizarre encounters. I live in a high-rise, and I just don't know the faces of all my neighbors. The meetings in the cities could have been no more than a coincidence. I met the stranger with the braid one more time on a narrow side street where I usually go to dump the garbage. It looked like she had been waiting for me. I couldn't stand it anymore and threw the garbage bag straight at her. She dodged it and kept staring at me in silence, and I started yelling at her. "What do you need from me? I'm calling the police." The woman shook her head and said, "Oh my God, no, Carla, please. I am your mother." I was shocked and speechless. I probably screamed at her that she's lying and ran home, but she managed to give me a piece of paper with a phone number. I did nothing for a few days, but then I decided to talk to my mom and dad. When I finished my story, their faces suddenly became stern. They asked me about everything in detail, as if not even noticing that this conversation hurts me. And they didn't deny anything, just suggested that I not call that woman. Because if she'd been a good person, why would she have left me in an orphanage? I didn't know what to say. "We love you, Carla. You are our girl," they added when we finished talking. And I love them too. I didn't throw away my birth mother's number, but I've never called her. Should I be offended by her? I don't really understand now who has offended me. The one who abandoned me and then showed up so many years later? Why? To ruin my calm, perfect life because she finally decided to see me? My mom and dad, why didn't they tell me the truth? I grew up thinking that we were of the same blood, finding likeness between us. But now I see how different we are. My life has turned into chaos, and I don't understand what I can do. But there is one thing I know. I love my parents, the ones who brought me up and spared me from the life of an orphan. As for the rest, I simply need time. I was honest with you. And what about you?
What?
Do you have stories to tell, just like mine?
Oh my
Tell them
God.
to us if you want to see them animated on the channel.
How about this? Up! Stupid ad.
I'm
Done.
Jeffrey. Do you like watching TV? I
Of
want to
course,
tell you about
yeah.
one story about a TV drama that
Holy-
helped me save my friend's
Holy,
life.
holy.
I've always been a normal guy, the one that
No.
studies really well,
Letter
but not
A.
a total nerd. I have friends and a girlfriend that I really like a lot. Her name is Caroline. She's a really successful figure skater, and I'm so
Caroline?
proud of her. I've
You
never
mean
missed
Carolina
any of her
Reaper?
performances and even attend all her trainings. The only thing I hate about the whole thing, eating partner John. Caroline spends so much time with him because of all these trainings and so on, and this makes me jealous. At some point, I began to notice that Caroline had become irritable. I tried to ignore her mood at first, since I thought her busy schedule with all the trainings and studying and everything were the reason she was so grumpy. Then I decided to cheer her up. I invited her to our favorite cafe, which had always been sort of our place, and bought her a present. But when she came, she suddenly began accusing me of my annoying interest in her life. That's how she said it.
Holy
She said that I
shit.
spent too much time with her and that she was tired of my constant presence, and I was too jealous of her trainings with John. She ended up saying that if I had a hobby of my own, everything could have been different. But since I'm not interested in anything aside from her life, that we have to break up. And then she just left. At first it was very hard for me to get used to the idea that Caroline and I were no longer together. Every day after school, I would just sit in my room and think. I didn't feel like communicating with anyone. I remember how once I came home and found my sister watching one of those dramas on TV. I sat down next to her on the couch and tried to understand what was happening in this episode of Grey's Anatomy. And guess what? It turned out to be a pretty good show and not as silly as I thought it was. I actually became obsessed with it and started watching the series from the very first season. There were plenty of them, by the way. And every Thursday, I would look forward to a new episode and watch it together with my sister. I began seeing my friends like I used to before, and suddenly I noticed that my best friend Jim was spending less and less time with us. He said that he just had some family issues, but then one day he called me and said that we had to talk about something, and that he would drop by and see me that evening. When he actually showed up, I saw his face. He looked pale and seemed to not be feeling well at all. At some point he said, "Me and Caroline,
What?
we've been seeing each other for a couple weeks now." I felt my stomach twist somewhere inside me. I was so
What
angry
the
that I
heck?
just yelled at him, telling him that we were no longer best friends.
What the
At
heck?
that moment, Jim
Okay.
fell on the floor and seemed to be unconscious. My sister ran into the room and started screaming something about needing to call 911. Thoughts were rushing
Wow.
through my head like crazy. I looked at my watch. It was
Nah.
8:23 p.m. Suddenly, it dawned on me. As
Dun,
if someone
dun,
were giving me
dun.
orders, I put my unconscious friend on his back and tried to feel around for his pulse. I could tell that his heart wasn't beating. I pressed my palms to his chest and began to do an indirect heart massage. No one ever told me how to do it, but I'd seen it plenty of times on
Yep.
Grays.
That is
It
such a
seemed like
bad thing.
few
I didn't
hours
watch
had
that.
passed before the paramedics arrived. I looked at my watch again. It only took them 3 minutes to get there. And even before anyone asked me what had happened exactly, I told everything to the EMTs. They did their job, and Jim woke up even before they put him in the back of the ambulance. The next day, I went to visit him at the hospital. He looked slightly pale, but he
What?
was alive.
Pale?
He said he had a heart problem that got worse whenever he got nervous, and he was definitely freaking out about the situation with me and him and Caroline. But the doctor promised that he'd
What?
be all right after a few days here in the hospital. He also said that things would probably have been much worse if no one did CPR at the right time. How did you know what to do? He asked. I had to confess my addiction to that medical drama. He gave me a smile. When I was leaving his floor, I passed Caroline. We didn't say a word to each other, but I caught her sad and sorry look, and strangely, I haven't felt like being mad at her. Do you know what I suddenly understood? Life is a very difficult thing. It's too short for anyone to be angry with somebody or something. I almost lost my close friend, literally, and it would definitely be stupid to lose him because of a girl. Now Jim is getting better. We never tried to talk about he and Caroline again. As for me, I started running. I do it every morning in the park near the house, and it makes me feel so happy. I've even noticed a girl who also runs there, so maybe soon I'll work up enough courage to talk to her. Who would have ever thought that even a simple obsession with a TV series
Wow.
could help you save someone's life? I hope my story will help some of
Okay.
you to change.
Guys, I'm done. So, guys, I hope you like this episode. And please hang out to my other videos. And goodbye.